city who beats up all the criminals.
In a nation that has lost all hope, its people suffer under the rule of the Legion. But now, there is a chance at freedom.
Oh, snap! I hope everyone saw that!
With the help of mercenaries from the internet.
Holy shit! I almost died.
Whack job means you do good job breaking stuff. Whack job is best job.
Brought to you by THQ Nordic and Hemimont Games. Featuring an epic cast of battle-hardened mercs.
I'll need more money if I am to tolerate her presence.
Fantabulous!
Hundreds of weapons and mods.
Bet if I take this thing apart, not one piece will be stamped made in America.
Intense turn-based combat.
Here they come, team. Let's lay out the welcome mat. Neutralized. Stay sharp.
Dynamic environments.
They won't see me until it's too late. Someone is gonna have a bad day soon.
Open world gameplay. And you can even bring a friend. With characters to meet and stories to experience, your choices will determine the fate of Grand Chien. Get ready for adventure, courage, royalty, money, and guns, and knives, and more guns, and mortars, and alligators.
Does he bite?
And explosions. Jagged Alliance 3.
This was a very...
Welcome back to the show. It's me, Chad Britt, your host. And today we have something a little bit different. I know we usually talk about comic books and the comic book industry, but today we have a composer for Jagged Alliance number 3. It's a video game. And as you know, I've talked to other composers who have done stuff for shows and movies and stuff like that. But, I'm interested in this side of things anyway, so it was nice to have this opportunity. So let me bring in George Strezov, who I hope I said his name right. I didn't ask him before, but hey, how's it going? Did I say your name right?
It's Strezov, but anyway, either ways, it's fine. And thank you for having me here on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule, which I'm pretty sure is probably busy to, chat about your work. So before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure. Well, I'm a film composer and game composer based in Sofia, Bulgaria. That's in Eastern Europe. And my biggest passion has always been films and soundtracks and games and their soundtracks. I've played the pianos since I was very, very young, but I never, I don't know, maybe I was a bit lazy to be a professional pianist because I didn't like practicing, and you have to practice a lot if you want to be good. So when I found out music software that allowed me to create music and to tell musical stories, that was a game changer for me. So I became absolutely invested into this, and it's currently my passion and my work. And I write music for films, for TV shows, for video games. I also orchestrate. I'm a classically trained conductor. I have a master's degree in conducting, so I also conduct the music, and it's like a very fun thing to do in this kind of grayish world that we live in nowadays.
Oh no, I mean you gotta have a broad spectrum of things that you do in order to kind of find your niche in this industry. I would assume in the industry that you are in.
Well, especially here in my country, it's not very typical. It's not like LA where you have like 1,000 composers for fighting for a single movie. And especially when I started out, which was, I guess, like 15 years ago, there wasn't that much of interest, from other people. So I really had the luxury of time to be able to experiment, to work with different people, and to create this. For me, it's art.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us a little bit about Jagged Alliance 3 and how you became involved with the project?
Yes, well, I've worked with a great studio here in Bulgaria called Hemimon Games, and we worked together on a couple of titles. Victor Run, which is a nice game that I actually have a poster back there. Victor Run, which was my first game with them. Surviving Mars, Stranded Alien Dawn, and now Jagged Alliance. Funny thing, when I was, I don't know, 10 years old or something like this, Jagged Alliance 2 came out, and it was like this real big hit. Because I played, when I was young, I played a lot of strategy games,
Hmm.
and mostly real-time strategies, even though Jagged Alliance, it's a tactical combat-based game. But yeah, I played it, and it was really real fun. And I kind of forgot about it, even though it was a great game, up to the moment where the guys at Hamilton Games came over and said, we want to tell you a bit more about our next game, which is going to be Jagged Alliance. And this was something that I worked for 3 years,
Hmm.
3 years and a half, maybe. This is a bit different between video games and film and TV. Especially TV, you
Sure.
have to be ready yesterday. And with video games, you have a bit more time to
Mhm.
experiment. And yeah, it was a real fun ride. The game was published also by THQ Nordic, which is a fantastic company. And there was like one of the producers over there, Brad Loxton, was particularly involved in the music process. And one thing that he wanted to do was to um, pay like this homage to the action films of like late 80s, the 90s, early 2000s. And in order to do this, we had to get into this specific like aesthetic,
Mhm.
and actually record everything with a live orchestra, kind of like old school. And you can imagine, the joy of every composer who says, there'll be a bunch of musicians who are going to perform your music. So yeah, the game is pretty nice. It's again, a tactical game. I think, in my humble opinion, it delivers also to the fan base, to the core fan base of the Jagged Alliance games, and further develops, some ideas about the gameplay.
So let's kind of talk about the music because I know that in video games, music is a big part of the gaming experience. What did you do to kind of prepare yourself to, you know, you know, I guess the word is craft the music for this game, and where did you look to for inspiration? I know you've mentioned some of the action movies from the, late 80s, early 90s also, but, is there any like specific movies or specific, I don't know, groups or,
Sh- Sure. Well, when I first started out, immediately the first thing that came to my mind was like the music of Michael Kamen, for example. He did Die Hard, Lethal Weapon, and many other films which are also great, but in this particular genre, these are the movies that are kind of very inspiring. But also I thought about another another kind of angle, like aesthetic angle, from which to look at the game soundtrack. And this was something that's more in the sense of like Blood Diamond, for example, the score of Blood Diamond.
Okay.
This was at the beginning of the like music making process, and obviously what I started with were a couple of obvious things for me. So first off, the setting of Jagged Alliance 3 is within like this made-up country of Grand Chien. So you have to rescue the president. Basically, that's your mission, and it's based somewhere in Africa. So obviously I wanted to have those ethnic influences to try and convey that feel of the music. So I wanted to use a lot of those instruments, combine them together with the orchestra. And then obviously, since we're doing a new version of a game that's kind of popular and has its own core fan base and people that kind of expect the music to sound like something from the past, I used like some instruments that are very traditional, like Jagged Alliance 2 has this marimba sound. Marimba, that's like a pitched percussion instrument that you play with mallets. And this was also because the marimba, even though it's very refined, even orchestral instrument, it kind of conveys that also African, feeling. So I wrote a lot of solos to that. And when I started working, you have to imagine that there was no game yet. It was just like concepts and concept art. And I was writing the music as they were developing the game. So I had to write like a battle track without seeing how the battle tracks would look like. And this was actually one of the mistakes that I did at the beginning, because I did a couple of battle tracks that are very grandiose and very epic. And then when you start playing the game, it's like a tactical based combat. It's like chess. And then you get like this, and it's a bit over the top, especially if you're fighting like the Legion mercenaries in the forest, like two guys or something. If it's a boss fight, So and I have to say that I'm a very visual composer. So maybe because I've written for film most of my life, but I like to look at concept art, look at environments, matte paintings, anything that the team at Heimon can provide me and give me. I would go there to play the game as well. I had my own copy here in my studio, where I would play the game as well. But anything that would kind of give me some pointers and some hints as to how to write the music.
Now, when you're composing, do you kind of have a idea that this, whatever the piece is for whatever sequence that you're doing has to be this long, or how I mean, I think you kind of touched on that before, but just touched on that, but how do you kind of, I guess, guesstimate what might be needed for a specific scene or lengthwise?
Sure. Well, so when I first started working, usually the team, they provide me, the game designers, for example, they provide me with a list and they say, okay, we want an X amount of minutes of battle music, or we want exploration music that will be like 15 minutes of exploration music. And then it's in this case, it's up to me to decide. Basically, there are two ways of doing music for video games, and I'll try to put this very I'll try to oversimplify it. So the first option is like linear music, which is just music starts and ends. That's it.
Yes.
And then we have the interactive music that does something based on what the player is doing. So essentially, without geeking out into music, and if I go too much into music nerd stuff,
Geek
just
out.
tell me. Yeah,
You're in the
tell
right
me.
spot.
Okay. So in this case, I had I would say the pleasure of doing linear music, because linear music is just I have the freedom to do the track the way I want to, and
Mhm.
that's super cool. And this is also um, I have to specify the form of the music, and this form will stay forever with the gamers who play the game, and if they listen to the music and they memorize it. So
Mhm.
it will be as if I'm writing like a symphony or something like this. I'll just make a short bracket, and for example, a game like Diablo 2, I know the soundtrack by heart. I know
Right.
everything that's going on there. So in this sense, I had like a very rough guidelines in terms of minutes of what to do, and then I had to come up with the exact minutes myself. And there was also one thing that happened uh, during the the development of the game. I remember there was I believe yeah, right now the exact level, it's called the Ernie village. So there's like this village that you have to liberate from the bad guys, the Legion. So you have like this group of mercenaries, like mercs. You pick up your mercs, and then you have to, go through the missions and complete them. So once I liberated that village, which was still in early development mode, so we had basically really love characters and some environment here and there, and then I would complete kill all the bad guys on the map, and then the villagers will start, yeah, and they'll start cheering up. And I was like, okay, that's cool, but there's obviously some sound effects going on and a bunch of other stuff and animation that villagers are happy, but there's no music. I mean, there is music, but that's like different. The orchestral, diehard, and all the battle
Yeah.
track or exploration, mysterious, which is not suitable. So at that point, I was like, you know what? Let's try doing something. Let's do some absolutely like ethnic based
Hmm.
tracks. And I have to say that with my work with Heimon Games, it's really great when I'll just say it, I'm really lucky because they give me a lot of freedom. And they said, we don't know. Maybe this is a nice idea. Maybe it's not. We don't know. Let's try it. So I found out about this fantastic group of musicians, and in Johannesburg,
Mhm.
and uh, yeah, it was actually a really funny story because due to my other work as a conductor, I found I became friends with a composer called Dominic Scherer. He did lots of great shows and fantastic music for like the shows like The Serpent, Ripper Street, and etc. etc. So one of the shows that he was working on was The Widow with Kate Beckinsale. I think it was on
Okay.
Amazon Prime. And since that was based in Africa, he recorded a lot of stuff somewhere in Africa. So I called him and I said, I have this game, I have this idea, but I will need help to get some folklore songs, stuff that I could later on arrange, some players. And he got me in touch with the group of those musicians within Johannesburg. And there was like their leader, like their arranger, JB Joseph Arthur. He was extremely helpful. So here's something that came out of just experimenting and trying different things, and everybody loved it. And also from from what I can see, the people who are playing the game really appreciate this idea more than my epic battle tracks. That's for sure.
So, and you've mentioned it. Which is more challenging, composing for video games or composing for TV and movies?
Mhm. Uh, that's a good question. Um, TV and movies is a bit different. That because most of the time, even though if they shoot the whole thing in a like green screen room, there's still something that's real. Like the performance
Hmm.
is real, even though even if they create the whole sonic atmosphere from scratch with Foley effects and so forth and sound design, there's still something that is actually real, or and it was shot somewhere in this world, with the exception of animation, of course. Um, with the games, it's you have something that at first is basically nothing. You cannot see it, you cannot touch it, and as soon as it develops, you have to kind of develop the music and create it in such a way that it becomes uh, a very important part of the setting of the game. I'm not sure if
Hmm.
I'm making myself clear, but basically my process of writing music for video games is I have to find a specific sound that would
Hmm.
fit the game, and it would fit the gameplay, the art direction of the game, anything that's sound related, like voiceover and so forth. With films and games, it's not like this, and also there's also the budgeting thing. And it's also not about how much I get paid for video games or for film and TV. The majority of films and TV series are very chamber like. So if you open like a show, let's say Homeland, have you watched Homeland?
I've heard of it. Yes. I,
Okay, it's like a
I have a
political.
kid. I don't get to watch it a lot. I have a lot. I have a big
Okay.
backlog of TV I got to watch. Or
Yeah, yeah. I know what you mean. So anyway, it's a political thriller, and even though it's like epic in
Mhm.
the size of the story, it's kind of a chamber thing. So you get like two or three people most of the time speaking in a room,
Mhm.
and the writing, the beautiful writing, the acting, that creates the tension, but you don't get the possibility to go big with the music because there's nothing big going on screen.
Right.
Obviously, if you're scoring the next Lord of the Rings, which I would love to do, uh, you get like this
Yes.
canvas, this huge canvas, and you can experiment. With video games, it's not like this. So you can have like a small video game, like indie video game, but it can still be large and epic and majestic. And then you can ride away as you want, like music wise.
So, do you have any favorite video games scores? I know for me, I know this might date me, but The Legend of Zelda is kind of one that I always kind of like. It's one of those, like you said, is as soon as you hear it, you recognize. If you know what the game, then you recognize it. What are your favorite video game scores, or ones that kind of you look to for influences?
Sure. Uh, Zelda is a nice example. Um, but I would say that maybe the first soundtracks that kind of made a huge impression on me were StarCraft.
Hmm.
So the StarCraft soundtrack was something that I've never heard before, and it was also very kind of avant-garde in a way. I also loved the music for Baldur's Gate 2.
Hmm.
This was one of the first games that I played because I'm a huge fantasy nerd, and
Hmm.
I like role playing games, Dungeons and Dragons, etc. And this was the first game of this kind that I played, and when I heard the music, I was like, "Oh, this is really nice." And I love the soundtrack for there's a local Bulgarian game called Knights of Honor 1, Knights of Honor 1, and it was composed by Borislav Slavov, who's right now he did Baldur's Gate 3, and it also has a fantastic soundtrack. Out of from the new stuff that came out in the recent years, I would say I'm absolutely in love with Ori and the Blind Forest. It's a very nice game, and the music it's top notch. And again, God of War, um, which was it was done by Bear McCreary, so it has this Viking vibe to it. Again, fantasy-ish. So I kind of love those the games that kind of tell a story through the music.
Right.
Yeah. So I appreciate that.
So I'm going to date myself now because I mean my first video game system was the Atari 2600, but then I then I grew up with Nintendo and then all that. But now that I have a son and he has a Nintendo Switch, and it's really interesting to see how not only the games have progressed, but also the music that accompanies them has also evolved since my time.
Yeah, and in some ways, I would say it's evolved up to a point that it supersedes like film music, because you would get all those Hollywood soundtracks that would sound bombastic and big and will record different musicians from all around the world, and then you get nowadays film music nowadays that has like the Star Wars, the latest Star Wars that came out,
which I'm upset is not on. It's still not for the Switch.
Okay. My nephew has a Switch. I haven't. I played Mario Kart on it, but
yeah. Son loves that too, and Minecraft. So and Zelda.
Yes. You know what? Actually, now that you got me thinking to like a very early question from you. What gets me like inspired and motivated? Maybe one of the things that I wish I could do, but there's probably no way in the universe that I can do myself, is to draw. Yeah, my for example, my uncle is a painter and also a musician, like this underground electronic music musician, very experimental, but he's a great painter. I definitely don't have anything from his side, but when I was still in school, I became part of like a local forum for comics. It was mostly for Bulgarian comics, and the only reason I was there was to actually look at the art of those painters and illustrators, and they did some meetings, and I would go there and they would say, "Oh, do you draw?" And I was like, "No," and they would ask me then, "Okay, so are you a collector of comics or something like this?" And I was like, "Not really. I like comics, but I'm not super into that. But I'm just like a creepy guy watching you draw," and that like really makes me happy. And I have great friends from that point in my life. And by the way, most of those people are like, one of the guys is working for Ubisoft now. The other one is drawing for the Magic cards, and so they're really great and talented painters and illustrators. So yeah, this is something that inspires me.
Would you, if given the chance, would you, be up for composing for like an animated comic book show?
Oh yeah, absolutely. As long as the story is and the character is something that is inspiring, yeah, absolutely.
So as we kind of wrap up here, is there anything else that you wanted to mention about your work or the game that maybe we didn't cover?
No, not really. Thank you so much. I would like to thank you, and if anyone who's listening, haven't played the game or don't know the game yet, it's real fun to do, and quite a lot of people put their hearts into that, and everyone on the team enjoyed the process. So we hope that you enjoy it as well.
And where can people find? Are you on social media? Can people find you on Spotify or any place like that?
Yeah, the soundtracks are released on Spotify. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. On YouTube, there's some behind the scenes footage from with those musicians from Johannesburg that I mentioned. So yeah, they're pretty cool. Being able to see those like 6 people singing as if they're one. That's something amazing.
I will try to find it and include it either as a link up here somewhere or in the show notes.
Okay. I can send it over. Thank you.
All right. Well, again, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day, and I'm definitely going to have to check out the game, which it's out now. Am I correct? And it's on. Let's see. Platforms looks like PlayStation 5, Xbox.
It's on Steam. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Steam. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, people should definitely go check out the game. Check out George's music, and again, anytime that you have anything else that you are working on that you would like to chat about or promote, then you're welcome back. And I enjoyed chatting with you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And once again, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Well, have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye. Cheers. Bye.